I'm so proud of this young, diverse and humble team and everything that it represents. Mr. Speaker, they're the very best of modern Britain, everything that I know this country can be. Does the Prime Minister think that it was wrong to criticise the England team's decision to oppose racism by taking the knee as gesture politics?
Yeah.
I agree very much with what the right honourable gentleman has said about England.
Vaccines.
And I repeat, I want to thank each and every one of them for what they did, their incredible campaign they ran in the Euro 2020 Championships. And they do represent the very best of our country. And I repeat that I utterly condemn and abhor the racist outpourings that we saw on Sunday night. And so what we're doing is today taking practical steps to ensure that the football banning order regime is changed, so that if you are guilty, Mr. Speaker, of racist abuse online of footballers, then you will not be going to the match. No ifs, no buts, no exemptions and no excuses.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry, that just won't wash. And it rings hollow. On the 7th, remind the Prime Minister and the House, on the 7th of June, the Prime Minister's spokesperson said this: on taking the knee, specifically, the Prime Minister is more focused on actions rather than gestures. Yeah. On the 14th of June, the Home Secretary said, I just don't support people participating in that type of gesture politics. The Conservative MP for Bassetlaw called it a ridiculous, empty gesture. So there's no point of pretending that these things weren't said. The England footballer, Tyrone Mings, said that Labour Party member I hear shouted out. Is that really the response? Is that it? Tyrone Mings said, and the House might want to listen, he said this: labelling anti-racism messages as gesture politics serve to stoke the fire of racism and hatred. Prime Minister, they're powerful words from someone who has himself been subjected to racist abuse. He's right, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Mr. Speaker, I want to reiterate our total support for our fantastic England team, and I support them in the way that they show solidarity with their friends who face racism, Mr. Speaker. But when he talks about the Home Secretary, let me just remind you that my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, has faced racism and prejudice all her career, of a kind that he can never imagine, and she has taken practical steps to get black and minority officers into the police in record numbers. In fact,
this is Vincent Patel who said it was okay to boo the knee.
Sorry to interrupt you. I want to hear the Prime Minister. If his own side don't want to hear him, I'm sure the tea room will accommodate them. It's very important to listen to what the Prime Minister's got to say. Have you finished, Prime Minister?
Shut the fuck up, arseholes.
Yeah. Keir Starmer.
Actually, he has got
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. I totally condemn all racism, including that directed at the Home Secretary. But she's got this wrong. The whole country knows it. His own MPs know it. In the last few days, everybody has seen England's black players have been the targets of disgusting racist abuse following Sunday's match. Disgusting. And this is really simple, Mr. Speaker. Either the Prime Minister is with the England players in their stand against racism, or he can defend his own record, those of his ministers and some of his MPs. But he can't have it both ways. So can he tell the House, does he now regret failing to condemn those who booed England players for standing up to racism, yes or no?
Go on. Answer the question.
Mr. Speaker, we made it absolutely clear that no one should boo the England team. And
no, you didn't.
Mr. Speaker,
no, you didn't. You encouraged them.
What we're doing now is
you encouraged them.
Following the racist abuse that our
grotesque
players
bag of meat
suffered on Sunday night and thereafter, we're taking practical action. So in addition to changing the football banning order regime, last night I met representatives of Facebook, of Twitter, of TikTok, of Snapchat, of Instagram, and I made it absolutely clear to them that we will legislate to address this problem, Mr. Speaker, in the online harms bill. And unless they get hate and racism off their platforms, they will face fines amounting to 10% of their global
How about you
revenue.
get hate and racism off your fucking platform, you fucking blonde twat? How about you get it off your platform,
Mr.
being the
Speaker,
Tory fucking
online
party?
harms bill has been promised for 3 years. I'm not sure a 15-minute chat at a garden party moves things forward that significantly. But I want to take the Prime Minister up on what he said about being absolutely clear, because here I have the headline, Mr. Speaker. Boris Johnson refuses to condemn fans booing England taking the knee. That's the story. That's the headline, June the 6th. Boris Johnson refuses to condemn fans booing England taking the knee. That's absolutely clear. It's not quite what the Prime Minister is implying today. It goes on to quote the Prime Minister's spokesperson, saying that the Prime Minister fully respects the rights of those who choose to make their feelings known. This is about booing. Fully respects their rights.
The rights
and
of
the Home
racists.
Secretary said that booing was a choice for them, quite frankly. So no condemnation.
Racists should be
there,
allowed
no
to make their feelings known.
Mr. Speaker.
That's what the Prime Minister said about racists.
Senior government ministers and Conservative MPs defend the booing of an anti-racist message, who do they think they're defending, Prime Minister, and why are they defending it?
Yeah, they're defending racists.
Mr.
Racists,
Speaker,
you
defends
blonde godshite.
Nobody defends booing of the England side. And
Yes, you did. You literally did. You lying sack of shite.
Look,
You fucking liar.
Prime Minister.
Prime Minister's
know the
a
answer,
fucking
and I expect
liar.
the opposition
He's a
to
fucking
listen to
liar.
the answer.
Take him down, Lindsay.
Prime
Drag him out
Minister.
the fucking house.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. We love and admire the England side and what they do.
Oh, you do now,
they represent the best of our country.
We'll get to the final.
Nobody defends booing the England side, Mr. Speaker. But
Yes,
what
you
the
did.
Home Secretary
You
has been
said
trying to
that
do
it was up
all
to
her life
people.
is not just to fight racism.
It was up
but
to
take
racists what they do.
To take practical steps to advance the cause of black and minority ethnic groups, which he has done successfully, notably in the
Bin bag
and since
filled
Mr.
with
Speaker, he's chucking this kind of thing around. Could I ask him now to retract this leaflet produced by the Labour Party during the Batley and Spen by-election, which was condemned by his own MPs as dog whistle racism, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister isn't kidding anyone in this House. He's not kidding the public, and he's not even kidding his own MPs. Let me quote the Conservative MP for Plymouth Moor View. Conservative MP. The painful truth, says the Conservative MP for Plymouth Moor View, is that Tyrone Mings is completely right. I am very uncomfortable, he says, with the position we Conservatives are needlessly forcing ourselves into. So, Prime Minister, behind you, they don't believe you, and neither do we. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker,
fucking
we can
liar.
all see what's happening.
Are you
here.
a liar?
The
Ask him again.
government has
Ask
been
him every
trying
day.
to stoke a culture
Are
war,
you a liar?
and they've realised they're on the wrong side. And now they hope that nobody's noticed. Why else would a Conservative MP boast that he's not
Sander
watching
Fury
his own
signifying
team?
nothing. I know.
Why else would another Conservative MP say that Marcus Rashford spends too much time playing politics when he's actually trying to feed children that the government won't? And why will the Prime Minister refuse time and time again, even now, to condemn those who boo our players for standing up against racism? Mr. Speaker, what is it that this England team symbolises that this Conservative Party is so afraid of?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the House will judge for themselves the quality of the question that the right honourable gentleman has just put. I think the whole House is united, including our distinguished members from Scotland, by the way, Mr. Speaker, in admiration of the England team and of every single member of that squad and what they did. And we stick up for them, Mr. Speaker. And what we're doing is taking practical steps to fight racism, changing the football banning order regime, fining the online companies, and by the way, we will use more legislation if we have to, just as we use the threat of legislation, Mr. Speaker, to stop the European Super League. And we will get on. We will get on with delivering for the people of this country. We will get on with vaccinating the people of this country.
Oh, he sent you the fucking vaccines. Go fuck yourself.
We will continue to immunise the people of this country while
he got his line wrong.
improvise and dart around.
He got vaccinate wrong.
I
He said
don't want
immunise instead
to
of
engage
vaccinate.
in a political culture war.
We're vaccinating.
I want to get on with delivering
the Europeans
for the people
are vaccinating
of this
at a higher
country.
rate now.
He simply wants to get on with dithering.
More people vaccinated in Mongolia. You twat.
culture war and point scoring. Give me a break.
Culture war and point scoring, that's all he does.
Football's a game. Racism isn't, Prime Minister. That's why many of us have been involved in the charity Show Racism the Red Card for years.
Yeah.
But far from giving racism the red card, the Prime Minister gave it the green light. And I'll tell you the worst kind of gesture politics, Mr. Speaker. Putting an England shirt on over a shirt and tie whilst not condemning those booing is the worst kind of gesture.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Prime Minister, finally, about the reported amnesty for crimes committed during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. I worked in Northern Ireland for 6 years with the Policing Board and the police. I've also prosecuted terrorists as the Director of Public Prosecutions, so I know how difficult and how sensitive this is. But a blanket amnesty, including for terrorists, is plain wrong. I was in Northern Ireland last week, and it's absolutely clear that the government's amnesty is not supported by the political parties in Northern Ireland, and it's not supported by victims groups. Last Thursday, I spoke to victims of terrorism at the Wave Trauma Centre in North Belfast. Mr. Speaker, they haven't even been properly consulted on this proposal. If things are to move forward in Northern Ireland, any discussion has to start with the victims. Politicians in London can't simply draw a line under terrorism and other crimes and then force it on those most affected. The Prime Minister looks up, so let him look up and let him hear. Because I want to quote Julie Hambleton, Mr. Prime Minister. Her sister Maxine was among the 21 people killed by the IRA in the Birmingham pub bombings. So that's Julie Hambleton, Prime Minister. She says, tell me, Prime Minister, if one of your loved ones was blown up beyond recognition, where you were only able to identify your son or daughter by their fingernails, would you be so quick to grant their murderers an amnesty and propose such obscene legislation? What does the Prime Minister have to say to Julie, and she's listening, and other victims like her?
Mr. Speaker, I think that the whole House will acknowledge the suffering of victims like Julie and their families. And, of course, nothing I say or can do now can in any way mitigate her loss.
Go on, make a joke out of it like you normally do.
That is clear. But it is also true that the people of Northern Ireland must, if we possibly can allow them to, they must move forwards now. And he will know that the proposals that are being brought forward, and the House will hear about them in more detail later on from my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland. The proposals that are being brought forward are measured, they are balanced, and they have a wide degree of support, I may say, from former Labour Prime Ministers and former Labour leaders who I think are of considerable more distinction, I may say, than the right honourable gentleman opposite. And he will recall that it was under that Labour administration that many terrorists were unfortunately given effectively an amnesty, and they were allowed to escape the full consequences of their crimes, as he knows very well. And that is the reality. Whilst the sad fact remains that, and this is of course no consolation to people like Julie, but the sad fact remains that there are many members of the armed services who continue to face the threat of vexatious prosecutions well into their 70s and 80s and later. And we are finally, Mr. Speaker, bringing forward a solution to this problem, to enable the province of Northern Ireland to draw a line under the Troubles, to enable the people of Northern Ireland to move forward. And I think someone with greater statesmanship and clarity of vision would have seen that, Mr. Speaker, and given these proposals a fair wind.
Bell.
Fuck off, you absolute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the
softball question now from one of his own cronies. We'll go back in a moment when we get to Ian Blackford, the leader of not the leader of the SNP, but the leader of the SNP in the Commons. So hello and welcome to HughesRound. It is Wednesday, the 14th of July, 2021. Welcome. And we're commenting on Prime Minister's questions. Although Kevin's a bit pissed off. He's like, "Shut up, Graham," and I'm like, "Well, don't watch this then. Like, you can watch it just on iPlayer. You know, you're literally watching it on iPlayer, filtered through my foul Scouse gob. So if you want to watch it and then get back to us, that's fine. That's fine. I don't get any extra money if you're watching or not. So, but give us a like on the way out. Cheers. What about Ian Blackford? Well, he'll be speaking in a moment. Here he is.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me begin by congratulating the England team for reaching the final, an incredible achievement. But the tragedy of the tournament was the undercurrent of racism that was ultimately targeted at 3 young men, Rashford, Sancho and Saka. Mr. Speaker, wherever there is racism, it falls on all of us to face it down and to call it out. And it is shameful that it took until last night for the Prime Minister to meet with the main social media companies and finally wake up to the fact that those who publish and promote vile, racist online abuse need to be faced down and sanctioned. So, can the Prime Minister tell us what sanctions he thinks would be appropriate for someone who publishes racist content? And it is shocking even to have to say this out loud. Describing Africans as flag-waving pickaninnies with watermelon smiles.
Shame.
Mr. Speaker, I've commented many times about the words that I've said in the past, and I think the House understands how. And I think the House understands how you can take things out of context, Mr. Speaker. I think people do understand that. But what they also understand is that there is a chance now to hold these internet companies to account and to make sure that they face fines running to 10% of their global income if they fail to take hate and racism off their platforms, Mr. Speaker. And I hope, actually, that the Scottish Nationalist Party will support it.
Ian Blackford.
You know, still no contrition,
no.
Still no apology.
No
and
apology.
Mr. Speaker, the truth is that the Tory party doesn't sanction those who publish that kind of racist content. They promote them to be Prime Minister.
Yep.
The legacy of this Prime Minister's dog whistling has followed him into 10 Downing Street, and it is now at the heart of this Tory government. As the England international Tyrone Mings has so powerfully stated, this government doesn't get to stoke the fires of racism and pretend to be disgusted when it happens.
Yes.
They don't get to condemn the racism of others, but deny that the racism that they have even provoked. In March, this UK government's own report on racism, the Sewell report, said that there was no systemic problem in the UK. I think the England men's football team would beg to differ.
Yep.
After the shocking racism on show over the last week, does the Prime Minister still stand by his government's belief that systemic racism is not a problem that exists in the United Kingdom?
Mr. Speaker, I do think that racism is a problem in the United Kingdom. And I believe it needs to be tackled and it needs to be stamped out with some of the means that I've described this morning. But when he attacks our party, my party, Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid he's got the wrong target. This is a party that has not only had the first ever Muslim Secretary of State for Health, now he was former Chancellor, of course, but has had 2 female Prime Ministers, the most diverse cabinet in the history of this country, the most diverse government in the history of this country, Mr. Speaker. We are the party. If you're a young person growing up in a black or ethnic minority group in this country, we are the party that represent hope and opportunity. That is the reality about the Conservative Party today.
Julian Balson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right.
The UK is packed full of incredible innovation-led businesses capable of leading in...
Right, that's a softball question. Right, okay. Fucking hell. Don't worry about my blood pressure watching this shite. But yeah, that was the Prime Minister, the United Kingdom, making out like it's not a problem that he's using dog whistle politics to basically come out with stuff that people then take to heart and decide that they're gonna, use as an excuse to be racist. And the Prime Minister seems surprised about this. He seems like quite shocked that this has happened. When to me, It's all fairly obvious, wasn't it? So just changing cameras. Oh, sorry. I didn't plug the cable in properly. Just changing camera angles. Give me a moment. Oh, this is taking a bit longer than I thought it would be. Than I thought it would. Sorry about this. I thought that I had it set up so this would be quite a quick little interchange, and it hasn't gone down that way, unfortunately. Oh no. Sorry about this. I will. Normal service will resume in a moment, I'm sure. Oh yeah, there we are. Oh, phew. Whew. That took a bit too long, didn't it? Just put my ident up there. Okay, and we'll get rid of Prime Minister's questions. I'm sure there'll be some more questions along from other people. There was an urgent question that was being asked of Priti Patel, which she refused to answer. An urgent question, and she decided that she would run away and let one of her underlings sort the shit out for her, because that's the kind of horrible twat that she is. So welcome, like I said, to HughesRound. It is Wednesday, so we start a little bit early, and of course I'm completely not ready for it. Great to see all these people on today to say hello. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown as soon as I get the list up on my computer, which I didn't have up before. So just give me a moment. I'll get there in the end. I've called this episode Crafty Wank. Great, cool. If you want to give it a like while I'm faffing around, you are very welcome to do that. Boris is definitely a Skaven rat man. He is. You couldn't have possibly expected a Tory to answer the question. Morning. Yeah, that's what we should start calling Priti Patel, Sheriff Fat Woman. You know, when she turned up at that raid and she had the Home Secretary on her top, Sheriff Fat Woman, from the Carter song, Sheriff Fatman. Lol, K to explain the hashtag, Graham. So, yesterday, some wag on Twitter pointed out that Darren Grimes, when he was in year 9 in school, was caught having a crafty wank under his desk in school. And from then on, his nickname was Crafty Wank. Now, this may or may not have been true, but what is hilarious is that Darren Grimes responded to this with the threat of legal action, to which he said, "I'm going to get my lawyers on you. What's your name?" And the answer was penis balls. And then he said, "Right, I know who you are. I'm going to come and get all my solicitors onto you." And it was just really hilarious. And now, forevermore, Darren Grimes, this little gobshite from Durham, who was part of the Believe campaign, which broke the law during the 2016 EU fraud-orendum. And he wanted a role on GB News, but they wouldn't give him one because he didn't go to a posh school. Basically, he's now living at his mum's here in Durham, and basically spouting off on Twitter, being the voice of gammon youth, I guess. There's only him. There's not many young people who are really into gammon and being a gammon and hanging out with a bunch of old people who hate everyone. But you know, he's there. Patel, head prefect. Penis balls related to Ed. Yes, in fact, it's anti-penis balls. Right, so just a big hello to everyone who's there. We've got John Barleycorn saying hello. We've got Ben Ridding saying that's a yes from me. Patel won't be going to the match then. That's from Ben. So he's not answering parliamentary questions time again, is it? Yes. Not answering Prime Minister's questions time again. And he did mention the vaccines, which is remarkable. It was about football. And then it was about this blanket immunity for terrorists. Racism in football, I should say, not just football, but racism and the cancer of racism in this country. And he managed to get vaccine in there. He managed to mention the fucking vaccines. It's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Anyway, listen, I've got this really, really good idea. I wake up every morning with an idea. Most of them are shit. But now and again, I wake up with a really, really good idea, and I want to discuss it with you, but I don't want to discuss it here. So if you join me on the Discord server at the end of the show, I will tell you my my incredible idea, and we'll come up with a clever way of making it so. Hello, everyone. Do we have our BS bingo cards ready? Yes, indeed. Usual Boris blather. Yes, it's almost as though he only knows how to say 4 different things. It's interesting, that, isn't it? Join me in Discord later. Vaccines. Not a lot of screaming today. Very important to hear Boris lie again this week. Patel has never given evidence of any racist attacks against her. If there were any racist attacks involving Priti Patel, I'm sure she was on the side that was conducting the racist attacks, because she's the worst. She's just the fucking worst. Yes, indeed. Still waiting for Johnson to answer the actual question that was asked to him. Well, that's never going to happen. Starmer's got his teeth into this one. That was a yes or no answer. Gratuitous syllables and noise, if not either of those words. Yep, they were clearing, muddying the waters. Racism is from the top, says Stanley. Absolutely. He should read out the full Piccaninny's Watermelon Smiles quote from that Boris the Liar wrote. Well, we've all done things in the past, like, that time I murdered someone, but, it was a long time ago. I'm sure everyone's over it now. Dead cat alert, indeed. Anything other than yes or no is a lot of sound and fury, signifying nothing. This is some draconic. King Lear's tragedy is rooted in trying to divide power, delegate responsibility, and then trying to play king. Indeed it is. If he loves the England team, why they pull the number 10 reception? Caution, dimwit dribbling. Yes, Boris is there. Boris bot. Red card versus green light. Great soundbite, indeed. Kevin wants to strangle me because I'm talking over Boris. Do you know what? I'm doing a public service there, Kevin, actually, if you think about it, because Boris has got a really, really annoying voice. There we have it, to protect just to protect the powers. It is indeed. What about Ian Blackford? We spoke about him. Ireland can't move forward just because an artificial deadline has been set for the Troubles. Carl Birchall says, then elaborate on what you meant then, Johnson, because it seems pretty clear what it meant to everybody else. How can you take those words out of context? What was the context? Well, Stanley, Boris Johnson will claim that he was being satirical. He was talking about Tony Blair at the time, Prime Minister. Oh, God. Sensible people were in charge, kind of. He was talking about his visit to, I don't know whether it was Sierra Leone or somewhere else. It might have been Sierra Leone. And he was talking about the way that Tony Blair would be responded to by the Africans. And he did say watermelon smiles. Which, unless you're really, really stupid and you don't know this, is racist. Yes, a super spreader PMQ missed the start. To be fair, they have the first female lizard man in a lead position. Couldn't get any less racist than that, indeed. Tories representing hope and opportunity for young black people in the UK. As a pasty white guy, I can see that as a joke and stop and search alone. Yeah. If you are black in this country, you are up to 70% more likely to be pulled over than stop and search. That is disgraceful. That is absolutely disgraceful. A policy that openly discriminates against black people. And then you've got this new voter ID rule coming in, which is completely unnecessary. There is no voter fraud worth doing anything about. You're talking about maybe like 6 ballots in a case full of 25, 30 million votes. And they're bringing in this rule knowing that it's going to be difficult for people to get their shit together in order to have a photo ID in time to go in an election, because most people don't give a shit about politics. They know people don't give a shit about politics. Not everyone's like, on the front line going, oh, wow, this is really exciting. I'm going to apply for my free photo ID from the council straight away. Then most people are going to do that and aren't going to do that. And the fucking Tories fucking know this. We know this. So it's not like the Tories are just like, oh, really? Is that true? Is that... Most people don't care about politics, and they only think, on the day, I'll go and vote. I'd love it if it came back to bite them on the arse, but I don't think it's going to, unfortunately. You couldn't have expected a Tory to answer a question, indeed. I'm so frustrated, said Tom Duke Vengeance. Patrick McCarthy Patel, head prefect. Henk says, crafty wank or losers wank? That's the question. William Shakespeare. Indeed. Well, we've got crafty wank now, and we've got loser spelled Loozer for Lawrence Fox. We just need to keep coming up with horrible names for these bastards until they, I don't know, find a rock and go and crawl back under it, or even better, get kicked off Twitter. That's what we need these people to do. So if they ever tweet anything that's a little bit sketchy, you need to get onto Twitter and get all over it. Now, Brian Moore, I think he was a rugby player, Brian Moore, he's quite good to follow on Twitter. And he sort of did a joke about Darren Grimes a few days ago, which could have been seen as, inciting violence. I think he said that he should be put into a giant wicker penis and set on fire, something silly like that. And one of the people to launch to Darren Grimes' defence was this useless prick, ex-extra. His name's Loser Fox. He went to Harrow, which is the second poshest school in the country. Not as posh as Eton, which is what Boris Johnson, Bear Grylls, Rees-Mogg, most people in charge of anything went to. But yeah, he went to Harrow and he didn't finish. He didn't get his A-levels because he didn't need to, because he was born rich to a rich acting family. As all actors in the UK pretty much went to private school. All of them. No, really, look it up. They all went to private school. There's very few of them that actually are authentic people. Lots of them are just public school kids, because of course they are. How else can you afford to not work for 10 years before you break into the industry? Unless bank and mum and dad got loads of money to pay for you to spend your time in London, the most expensive country, one of the most expensive cities in the world, and also wine and dine people that you need to wine and dine in order to get those juicy parts. I'm not saying it's a casting couch, but it's definitely a casting bar or casting round of drinks at least. And you need to know someone to do anything in this country. It's not what you know, it's who you know. Anyway, Lawrence Fox rushed to Darren Grimes' defence, saying it's disgraceful that anyone could, call for violence on Twitter. To which Brian and a lot of other people then screen capped and sent an old tweet of Lawrence Fox's that said that it's perfectly acceptable for people to threaten violence on Twitter because of free speech. Yeah, it's almost as if these fucking knobhead bastard wank shafts have no courage of their convictions. Almost. And I've been on Twitter for 12 years now. I started in 2008, so 13 years, bloody hell. My original account was the Odyssey Expedition account, and then I needed to change the name and it wouldn't let me, so I started a new account in 2020. So off the back of that, in 2010, sorry, Jesus. So off the back of that, I've had two main accounts over the last sort of 12, 13 years, and if someone can find me a tweet that they can then show me and say, ha, you said this, but now you said, I'd love it. I'd be like, wow, Jesus, I was a knobhead back then, wasn't I? But I don't think they can, because I've been remarkably consistent in my worldview in the last, definitely since I travelled to every country in the world, which is that we can't tolerate knobheads. We shouldn't tolerate knobheads. We shouldn't tolerate racists. We shouldn't tolerate people who deny that climate change is happening, or the Holocaust, or anything else that they want to deny is happening, because, reality deniers. We shouldn't tolerate fucking pricks who claim the earth is flat. I mean, we just should not tolerate this shit. And we should celebrate the diversity of humanity, and we should pull down all the fucking borders, because they're ridiculous. They're just really silly and they make no fucking sense. And whichever country in the world has the balls and the brains to pull down its borders first and say, right, that's it. No, you can come here. Everyone can come here. For the first few years, it's going to be crazy. But after that, they'll be the economic powerhouse of the world. Because what drives economies now, since the emancipation of women, is immigration. Immigration. The more immigrants you have in your country, generally speaking, the more money your country will make. And that is why countries like the USA, which are just nearly 99.9% immigrants, they do so well. Whereas countries like North Korea don't do very well at all. Brian Moore, ex-England Lions rugby international player, qualified, almost certain he was adopted as a child. Okay. If I recall correctly, the Tory manifesto said voter ID would cost 14 million more. Money spaffed up a wall for nothing useful. Well, no, it is something useful, John, because look at their calculations. £14 million of taxpayers' money, so they're not fucking paying for it, which will win them votes. They will get more votes than the other parties because Tory voters, old Tory, they know that old people who vote Tory, not all old people vote Tory, but the old people who do, have a weird interest in politics. A weird interest. I mean, an interest that is born out of absolute cataclysmic boredom because they're retired and they've literally got nothing to do with their days. And so why not just read the Daily Mail and get really angry about stuff and get really into politics? Young people into politics, not you don't get that very often, but when you do, the people who young people who get into politics generally trying to change the world for the better. They're into things politics because they want to join the campaign for nuclear disarmament, or they want to campaign for green issues, or they want to campaign for more rights or whatever. Whereas older people just want to fuck everything over. Not all old people, Tory voters. I mean specifically Tory voters, old Tory voters. They just want to watch the world burn. They just want to watch the world burn. And as I said yesterday, we're all fucking panicking at the moment. That's why older people in general are voting for absolute gobshites. People whose morals 20 years ago, they'd be like, oh my God, their morals are disgraceful. They're in the gutter. And now it's all like all these little fucking hyacinth bouquets of all fucking voting Tory. Oh yes, well, Boris, he's a bit of a lad, isn't he? He's a bit of a lad. No, he's a fucking cunt. You spelled lad wrong. It's spelled C-U-N-T. Cunt. In Japan, everything is clean and everyone wears masks. Why is Japan done well? Japan has done well for other cultural reasons because, I mean, they don't have a lot of immigration, and but they've done well up until the 1990s. And there's a few factors in that. They were a developing nation. The emancipation of women, allowing women to work, changed things a lot. They had quite a patriarchal government structure. They've still got an emperor. And one of the things that happened to Japan in the 90s, because Japan, don't forget, was expected to just keep growing, like massively throughout the noughties and throughout the tens, and they didn't. They really stagnated their economy in the 1990s. And you know what? Japan was kind of happy just to keep it at that. They didn't want unlimited growth, I guess. But it is interesting looking at the economy of Japan, that it hasn't grown in line with, say, the economy of America. One of the reasons is immigration. It is a huge driver of any given economy. And the reason is really easy to get your head around. It's you are taking people, fully grown adults from other countries who have already gone through their education process. That's it. Because the biggest expense that you are going to incur to the state is going to be your education. Because you might think, well, is it not me medicine when I need to go to hospital now? Look, if you're that ill, you're not going to last bloody 15 years or 18 years or whatever in education, are you? That you do in education, I mean. Oh my God, I've got this terrible disease. It's going to kill me. It's like, okay, well, we'll do what we can, but there's a limit. There's a limit, isn't there? I'm not going to be doing it 18 years on, but probably not. I mean, the NICE will come along and say, oh, well, it's not really worth it, is it? So that's interesting about Japan. But yeah, North Korea, I meant to say, was a country where there is no immigration, and they have this patriarchal system where you can't criticize the government or anything that the government don't want you to criticize, yada yada yada. And it's horrible. I mean, it's the worst place on earth. I mean, they have these horrific famines there, and fuckloads of people die, and no one can do anything about it because we're not allowed to go in and give them aid. And the thing about North Korea is they're completely reliant on subsidies, funding, and support from China. How do we improve political education, says Context? Well, we can make it politics more interesting. No, I don't think we need to. I honestly, as Paul Rank, Graham, as a history and politics graduate, I understand and I get that some people are really turned off by politics. Like it's not something that they are interested in or taking interest in maybe once every few years. Imagine it like football. Right, if you're not that into football, but once every 4 years there's a big tournament and your team does all right and you kind of get behind it for a few days and then it's back to normal. You don't really care about football. Politics is very similar. Up to an election, and people get interested in politics for an election, blah, blah, blah. But the people don't usually watch Prime Minister's Question Time every week. People don't normally, I mean, we do, but like the majority of people in this country, they're just getting on with their lives. I wouldn't necessarily think that it was important to teach more politics in school, but I think more like civics, which they do anyway now. To teach about sort of the political system, I guess. I guess that is learning about politics. But yeah, you can't force. I don't think we should force kids to have to learn this stuff if they don't want to. And that's probably an unpopular opinion on this channel. Don't make politics more interesting. Once again, I want to have problems naming more than 2 ministers and 1 MP. Yes, bang. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Hey, and listen, can you join us afterwards on Discord? Because I want you to be there for this discussion of this idea I've got, because we need to be a little bit sneaky about it, and yeah, a bit clever. And I'm not clever enough to do it by myself. Alexander Campbell, also Japan has a very aging population with a low birth rate. This is reflected in the economy, where there's a decreasing amount of 18 to 65 in the workforce, meaning fewer receipts to care for the old. Yeah. It's another problem if you don't have immigration replacing a low birth rate. And another problem that Japan has got is that its spending outweighs its money that it takes in. So it actually spends more money. Oh, I think it owes more in overseas debt than it actually takes each year. I mean, it's manageable, but they're getting there. Thanks, Baybag. I'll see you there. Stephanie says, most people probably don't have time or mental space for politics. Having to deal with work can already be more than enough for some. Yes, Stephanie, I absolutely agree. Work, you love life, going out, partying, going to bars, clubs, restaurants, enjoying yourself, going on a picnic, going on nice walks. Jesus, hashtag what white people like. Going on holiday, organising your holiday, worrying about your bills, sorting out your banking, sorting out your mortgage, sorting out where you live, fixing up your house, doing the decorating, doing the gardening. There's so many things that come first in people's lives above politics. Politics is not anything to do with the unless it specifically interferes with your personal sphere. Most people won't touch it. So when it came to things like shitty school meals for kids, where we were spending twice as much money on meals for prisoners than we were on children, lots of people had a vested interest in that because it interfered with their personal sphere. Brexit, to me, has interfered in my personal sphere. It has ruined my potential for continuing working as a presenter for travel stuff around Europe, because I'll need a work permit. I can't just fly off to Greece and do another show in Greece because I'll need a work permit to do it. I didn't used to need that. So now there's 450 million people who don't need a work permit who'll get the fucking job before me. So effectively, Brexit has destroyed my path, the path that I was following in life to what I wanted to do as a career and what I was actually doing as a career as a presenter. Brexit fucked it for me because I'm aware that the stuff that I know a lot about in the UK has a quite a limited appeal, talking about politics, and I'm not going to get anywhere in this country on television or anything like that because I didn't go to a private school. So yeah, that's why I pivoted towards politics on the internet, because it's all I got left, really. You've all I've got left. But no, seriously, Brexit's fucked my life. And yeah, and fuck everyone who fucking voted for it. Those fucking cunts. I hope their lives are similarly impacted in some way, and they're not allowed to do the things that they want to do in their short time on this planet because some racist cunts decided that they didn't like foreigners anymore, and that immigration was bad. Whereas immigration for the economy is really good. Immigration for toleration is really, really good. Immigration for just not just the Commonwealth, but the like I say, toleration. It's good for the economy. It's good for toleration. It's also good for society. It's good for people to be part of something bigger than themselves. And yeah, this isolationism, this atomization of society is what is driving a lot of the mental health problems that we have in this country at the moment. Not fucking lockdown I know more people now who are stressed out about this fucking twat Boris cunt Johnson going, oh well, I'm not gonna say that you have to wear a mask. It's up to people to wear a mask. They are more stressed out. It's causing more mental health problems, him doing that, than the last fucking year and a half of fucking lockdown. Yuvosh, £5 super chat. Thank you. €5. Sorry, €5 super chat. Yuvosh, thank you. Just to bring some money into the conversation, thank you. Young people should really be told this will impact your future about politics with a blunt force. Yes. Sorry, Japanese debt is over 100% of GDP. That peculatory, that's what I was trying to get at before. I said they're spending more than they actually get each year. But yes. Carl Birchall, yeah, I would see how that would go down with the schools teaching liberal values brigade right there. Yeah, how dare schools teach things that are true. The vaccine switched me off for 24 hours. Not sure I'm back to 100%. Sneak yourself. We'll try and be alert though. Yeah, so yeah, I'm all vaxxed up now. I'm vaxxed and ready to go. Like Republica once never sang. So, yeah, and also I've heard rumours that if you got the India-made AstraZeneca jab, it might not be allowed for travel through Europe. So I've got to check my batch number and make sure I got the European-made AstraZeneca jab and not the Indian-made one. Shit! Mark says, all kids can see these days is the older generations curtailing their future opportunities and telling them stuff they care about isn't important. Must be lousy to be young these days. Yeah, Mark, you're absolutely right. And it's why I'm reticent to say this is what we should be doing, in terms of teaching children. This is what we should be teaching. This is what we should be teaching. I'm like, well, if I ruled the world, if I was in charge, the job of schools would be to teach children how to discover information for themselves, because it's all there on the internet now, right? And also to find out what they enjoy and what they're good at and letting them do that. So nothing compulsory, apart from basic maths and English. Obviously, you need that to just function in society. But above and beyond that, you might have someone who's bloody fucking amazingly talented at languages. I got a mate who's a polyglot. He speaks English, Scouse. He speaks French, German, Italian, and Sicilian. He got married in Sicily and he did the translation for everybody while he was getting married. Spanish, Portuguese, Mandarin, and Cantonese. And now he's learning Thai. And that is just remarkable. I don't know how the fuck he does it. I'm just in awe. He's also a musician. And I think this is something to do with being able to hear a song on the radio and being able to play it on the instruments. He can do that. So he's got that skill. He's got that mad skill. And you know what? Get all the fucking qualifications you like in those subjects. We're not going to force you to do CDT because that's stupid. We're not going to force you to do economics. We're not going to force you to do a subject that you hate and that you're no good at. And I think that's important. I think that every kid has a talent, has something that they're fucking good at, they're absolutely fucking bang on at. And that should be encouraged. That should be encouraged to the hilt. And unfortunately, because our schools are so academic, we set it up so if you can strip down a motorbike to its constituent parts in the morning and then put it back together in an afternoon, you can't get an A level in that. Whereas I think that is way, way, way more display of talent, raw, brutal talent, than being able to recite what your teacher told you about a Shakespeare play. Don't do politics. Politics will do you. Yeah, indeed. My girlfriend had the attitude of I don't do politics. She's become more political as I pointed out things that are difficult for her or family caused by political decisions. Yeah, no, 100. And I think that's a really good point, actually. So, whereas I am a little bit reluctant to say kids should have to learn this. Kids should have to... And also at the same time, I'm very against people saying kids shouldn't learn about stuff. I mean, I'm not a teacher. I don't work in a school. I'm not a head teacher. What am I saying? Why am I saying like kids should learn about this particular subject because I like it, or because I find it interesting, or because they should give them a better start in life? And each kid's different. Each kid's, let them develop and grow as best they can at what they do. Everyone's got a talent. Everyone has got a talent. In a short return to human humanistic education. Yeah, context. Yeah, absolutely. However, I'm talking about that. I'm talking about schools, okay? This, what I do, what Phil does, what Mark, what Maximilian does, what Marcus does on All Shorts, what Mike Galsworthy, Peter Jukes, Madalena Kay, Femi Olawale, what all of us are doing are raising awareness. And this is something that is nothing to do with schools, or education, or anything like that. It's just talking about this stuff because you don't know stuff until you've told it. You told it. I mean, it's information, and that's what we do here. We share information. That's why it's so important that we run these channels and we have these conversations. And your what you want to put across is put across. Because, first of all, it's good for our mental health because it shows that, there's other people out there who aren't fucking crazy like the Tories. But also, it gives us better arguments. The stuff that I've seen in your messages, right? I should be giving you super chats, to be honest with you. If I had the money, I would. But the stuff that's come up on the messages here have been fantastic. And I've used them in future arguments because I've thought, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That's a great analogy. That's a great, thing. And I use Twitter for the same reasons. I stopped pretty much using Facebook last November. And the reason I stopped was quite simply because they kicked me off for a week during fucking the American election. So I couldn't chat with everyone and put up funny memes and shit about the American fucking election, which I really wanted to do. So it's like, oh, great, Facebook. I don't really use you much for ages. And then the 1 week I want to use you tell me I can't. So, and the reason I was kicked off was like a ridiculous one. It was just so stupid. I think it was like I had shared earlier that year, I had shared an article from The Guardian about Bolsonaro saying that COVID was not real. And I shared it with just the word "oh" at the top, just because I'd been going on about Bolsonaro for some time by that time, about what a dickhead he is and how he deserves to be put into a giant penis-shaped phallus and set on fire, made of a wicker phallus. He then did exactly what I knew he would do, which was to say that COVID-19 isn't the most deadly virus that we've seen in 100 years, which it definitely fucking is. So I got banned for that, and then something else, I used a swear word or something, so someone reported me. And I stopped using it. I stopped using Facebook because it was pointless. That's a bubble. So I went over to Twitter, and Twitter's been... I didn't understand Twitter. I didn't really use it that much until more recently, where I've gone, okay, I get it now, because it can allow you to have this kind of conversation, and also exposes you to sides of the debate and also information that you wouldn't necessarily get from Facebook. So I'll give you an example. I get quite a lot of time. I know I've got my Dark Side account, my I Follow Bigots account, and I've also got my Every Country account, which is my daily account. But the I Follow Bigots account, go over there, I can see what people are sharing on the dark side of the force. However, if I just stay on my normal daily account and all my friends are pretty much pro-EU, progressive, centralist people who've got the head screwed on, I still see the messages from the other side because people forward them on. They say, look at this knob, or they screen cap it, and they say, look at this knobhead. So you still get that exposure to the other side that you don't get on Facebook. I don't think you get on Facebook very often. Facebook try and mitigate that with groups, but then groups are terrible for just getting pulled down by trolls, where someone will post it in the group that is unarguable, and then someone will say, where's your evidence? And then you post the evidence, and they go, yeah, this isn't evidence, where's your evidence? And just keep going around in that circle, as trolls do. Canal, thank you, Canal, for 10 Singapore dollars. Thank you very much, Canal. Towards a haircut fund for your apparently destitute hobo prime minister. Yes, I'm sure that will come in handy. Talking Bernard up the top, the Japanese national debt is about 266% of GDP. About 45% of it is held by the central bank. So the government owes it to itself. Japan's economic problems are a result of a lack of resources. Well, Bernard, I mean, there's a few factors. And I think that lack of resources is one, but the lack of migration to Japan is a big factor. It's a big factor. And we've talked about it here for various reasons, but, you've got an aging population. You have new people coming in. This is why, as soon as Scotland, right, go with me on this one, right? As soon as Scotland gets independence from the United Kingdom, it should, and it joins the EU, that's it, man. Just go mad for immigration. Just say as many people as we like, we will take from all different places around the world. And because Scotland has a decreasing population, it has an aging population, and it is the one place on earth that, will survive climate change. It just will, because it's really fucking high up and it's really northern, whereas other countries are going to fry, as we've seen in Canada, Australia, the bushfires, California, the fires. So yeah, if Scotland opens the door, and within a few years you have population going up to 6-7 million, you will very rapidly see the economy of Scotland grow, because they'll have a load of people who've just arrived, fully educated, know how to read and write. You don't have to pay for them. You don't have to pay to teach them to read and write. And Scotland's economy will go great guns. The second best thing you can do after emancipation of women. If you want to make your economy grow, and you don't let women work, let them work. Overnight, your economy will double. That's it. You can only do it once. Whereas immigration, it's an ongoing thing. Indeed. The dress code in politics tells us what it's all about. Conform to the aristocracy of government. Absurd. Ties are just a symbol of conformity. Even submission as our wigs on judges. Yeah, but wigs on judges are hilarious. Carl says, in my experience, schools are seen as a learning tool for going into the world of work, just education to do said job, other than care. It's not very useful as they'll see it. But this is the thing, private schools don't necessarily have to follow the national curriculum, and many don't, and that's why private school outcomes, apart from the fact that they've got a big wad of daddy's money in the back of the pants, but the outcomes are usually better, because they have an education which teaches them how to do exams. They get the exam results that they need, and then they go out into the world, and that's it. With the arrogance of the privately educated, this is a unique British arrogance, which is probably one of the most irritating facets of the whole private school eating disorder that the UK has got. But yeah, I think that loosening the national curriculum for state schools would be a really good idea. I think that maybe you could have a curriculum where it works like this. Each subject has a certain attainment levels that are set, but how you get there is multiple. There's multiple ways of getting there. So it's not just that you have to study stuff that is irrelevant, but also so you don't have to study stuff that's irrelevant, but also, I've spoken about this before as well, I'd like to see a more holistic view taken in schooling, so that the school lessons feed into each other. So at the moment, you've got sort of maths over here and history over here. You've got science over here, and you've got geography, which is a science. Well, it kind of is. And to understand a lot of the geological processes, you need to know a bit of science. So get more of a crossover. If you want to understand the history of science, how we started, if you teach it in a way that, okay, we started thinking there were 3 or 4 elements, fire, water, soil, air. And from that, we then developed these ideas. And as those ideas grew, we grew as humans, intellectually. And telling the story of the history of science helps in understanding science, because it starts off simple. It starts off asking these questions and saying, okay, what's the solution? And using very, very rudimentary ways of solving the problem. So, problem. How big is the Earth? How big is the Earth? Okay, we didn't know. 2,000 years ago, we didn't know. And then a guy in Heraclitus, I think his name was, put a stick in the ground in Alexandria in Egypt, and he got someone else to put a stick in the ground 200 miles south, and they measured the length of the stick at exactly midday, and at the exact same time, and using the different lengths of these sticks that are the same height, they could use trigonometry to work out the actual surface of the Earth. And the guy who did this, he was only out by about 100 miles. I mean, he was really fucking close, because then he didn't actually walk around the entire world with one of those little sticks with a wheel on the end of it, chunk, 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 clicking along. And that's remarkable. That's remarkable. But it's really also quite simple. I know the trigonometry might be a bit difficult, but the concept is quite simple. And we moved on from there when we needed to know whether the Earth was a prolate spheroid or an oblate spheroid. We sent an expedition, not we, the French, sent an expedition off to South America, off to what's now Ecuador, and another one off to Lapland, led by a guy called Celsius, right, from where we get the centigrade scales name. It's named after Mr. Celsius. And they measured an arc of the meridian. So basically, you got a compass point. You've got the equator going round. An arc of the meridian would be one degree of the equator, and from that they could work out the distance from the North Pole to the equator, and therefore work out whether the Earth actually bulged at the middle or bulged at the poles. And remarkable stuff. And that was done in the 1730s. But again, not that hard to get your head around. Not like the Large Hadron Collider, which is crazy. I look at that and go, it's so complex. It's ridiculous. It's off the charts. But if you start with an abacus, it's easier to understand how a calculator works. If you know how a calculator works, it's easier to understand how a computer works. So you can feed in history, the history of science, into the science lessons, or have that as part of the history. If you're talking about geography, you're talking about politics, you really need to know geography. I didn't do geography, ironically enough, for GCSE, because I couldn't take history and geography. I found that fucking crazy. You can't understand. There's a great book called Prisoners of Geography. I was talking about it last week. You can't understand anything that's happened in history unless you understand the geography that went behind it. There's reasons for everything that happened, and they all basically come around geography. Even when you say, oh, that's a religious war. That was a religious war. Yeah, but it's still always about territory. It's still about that particular area versus that particular area. It's absolutely 100% part and parcel of history is geography. Politics as well. That's why we call it geopolitics. I think that might be worldwide politics, but it should mean geography politics, because that's what I talk about on Hughes the World. I've got a £2 from Pineapple Boy. Have you watched Lower Decks yet? No, I haven't, Pineapple Boy. I haven't had a minute. I haven't had a minute to myself. I didn't really understand hadrons till I was 14. Winky face, says Yoni. Well, Yoni, it's funny you should say that, because people ask me when I travelled, if I travelled to find myself, and I say to them, well, no, I found myself at a very young age, and I've been finding myself every night since. Anyway, so crazy not to have history of geography. As far as I know, there was only one private school here in Northern Ireland, and I have yet to meet anyone who went to it. That's good. But the problem with Northern Irish schools is that a lot of them are separated into Catholic schools and Protestant schools, which isn't great for the community. Not great for the community. If you don't know anyone, if you're a Protestant and you don't know any Catholics, you've never fancied a Catholic, you never fallen in love with a Catholic, you've never had a best friend who's a Catholic, it's very, very difficult to. Well, it's very easy, I should say. It's very easy to fall into the trap of believing that all Catholics are evil. The more people that you know from any given background, the harder it is for you to argue that they're all evil. Yeah, well, apart from him, and that bloke, and those kids, they're all right. I cannot believe that Martin, money-saving expert Lewis, had to fund the textbooks for schools for financial education, covering mortgages, compound interest, etc. Harder to financially exploit an educated public. Indeed. Mark says, we didn't nearly do enough political geography when I was at school. It was all offshore drift and glaciers. Yeah, exactly. Hi, Graham from Taiwan. Hello. Feel lucky not to be in the UK on Monday. How long before the fighting starts? Well, next week I've got my nephew coming over coming up, and we're going to be working on the Girls' Den. So we got the footings down. So we've got like 4 big bits of wood in the ground, and we're going to be cementing them. We're then going to be actually knocking wood together, making a little rope bridge. We've got a tree trunk that we're going to use as a tree house, and basically I'm just going to be doing that. for the first 3 days. So I don't know. If we have a civil war, I'm just going to be in my garden. Just find me there. I'm not going to be getting on public bloody transport. I'll tell you that for nothing. Theresa May was a classic geography grad without knowing history. Well, I was a history grad without knowing geography. I left school. I left university with a degree in history and politics. And when I went to start researching my trip to around the world in 2002, so this is like 19 years ago, I didn't know that Borneo was in Southeast Asia. I thought that it was in South America. I didn't know that Singapore was a city-state of the peninsula. I didn't know. I thought it was just a little country. I had no idea. I had no idea that Brunei was on the island of Borneo. I thought that it was in the Middle East. Because I'd heard of the Sultan of Brunei, so why would I not think it was in the Middle East? That's shocking. 21 years old. I'm leaving university with a degree in history and politics, and I don't have a fucking clue where Brunei is. I know it's not like a huge thing, but it's one of those things I just think, that's sort of stuff I should have known. I should have known that at that age, but I didn't. Eton isn't a particularly good academically. It concentrates on the few. It thinks it's got a chance of getting into Oxford and Cambridge, but ignores the rest. I don't think it's a few, Bernard. I think it's like most of them get into Oxbridge or Durham. Something like 37% or 38% of Durham intake are from private schools. Yeah, that's fucking insane. When you look at the number of people who go to private school, 7% of the population versus the number who don't, 93% of the population. Yeah, those private school kids, they're taught how to pass exams. They're taught how to pass exams and say the right thing to get into the university. Never saw the point of religious education. Yeah, HK. The girls go to a school and we've got like, their reports, end of term reports yesterday. And yeah, they've got a big section about RE. And I'm like, what a waste of the kids' time. What a fucking waste of the kids' time. You know, one of them's six years old, learning about some bullshit that they believed in the Bronze Age and thousands of miles away in the fucking desert when everyone was fucking illiterate. Pisses me off. I understand later on in high school, in senior school, learning about religions as part of history. Yes, I get that. I completely get that. But this shoehorning in of this bullshit about this one God who made the world 6,000 years ago. And he made Adam, and then he gave him a wife called Eve, who was made out of his rib. And then they had two kids, and one of them killed the other kid, and somehow the human race kept going. And then God didn't like what he had made, so he sent a big flood and killed everyone except for Noah and his family. And then they died as well. I don't know, but maybe the whole of the human race descends from just one old guy in his boat. And then there was Lot, who famously fled from Sodom and Gomorrah with his daughters. I think his wife died in the fire. The angel of fucking death came down and killed everyone for having bum sex. How dare they? And he's up in a cave with his two daughters, and they're like, how are we going to get pregnant? Everybody's dead. We're going to have to... Yeah. So they got their dad drunk and took advantage of him. Hence, one of the best signs that I saw in a protest against, a protest for gay marriage, but it was kind of a protest against these state legislators around America being against gay marriage. Their argument being it was Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. So this placard said, it was Lot and his daughters, not Lot and his sons. Yeah, not a book of morals. Not a book that you really want your kids to read. You really don't want them. You don't want your kids to read the Bible. Because it's got some really evil shit in there. There's a bit, right, have I got a copy? I've usually got a copy of the Bible about on the bookshelf. Maybe I hid it when the in-laws were around. Yeah, there's a bit in Judges, and it tells the story of a Levite, a priest, who's travelling from town to town with his concubine. And his concubine, so his fuck buddy, essentially. This isn't his wife. This is a concubine. This is a woman that he either has enslaved to be his sex servant or he pays to be his sex servant. And he arrives in this town, and there's an old man who lets them into the house. And then some worthless men turn up, and they shout, "Oi, let this Levite, let him out. We want to have sex with him. We want to do him up the bum." And the guy who owns the house says, "No, that's a terrible thing. Don't do that." And the priest says, "Seriously though, don't bum me. Here you go. Here's my concubine. Do with her whatever pleases you." And he throws his concubine, this woman, his travel buddy, throws her out into the street, where she is gang raped by men all night. In the morning, she's lying there on the doorstep of the house. So he hasn't checked on her, make sure she's all right. And he opens the door and he says, "Up, let's go." And it's then he realizes that she's dead. This actually happens in the fucking Bible. He realizes that she's dead. She has been gang raped to death. This is in the fucking Bible. This is what they want kids to read and learn morality lessons from. Anyway, because of this, he brought charges against the rapists, and they were all brought to justice. No, I'm joking. Of course they weren't. He just put her dead body on the back of his donkey, took it home with her, cut her into 6 parts, and sent it to all the different tribes of Israel, and said, "Look on this. Consider." This is why they won't let me do the reading in church. A bit younger than you, Graham. My uni decree. I decree this uni open. My uni degree covered the mechanics of Erand Liphart's mechanical vectoring of democracies, and I did learning where Brunei is either. I did learning where. Okay, it didn't. Yeah. I'm sorry for mentioning RE to Graham. Yes, you should apologise, HK. Tried to call on stereo. Oh, it's Pineapple Boy trying to call. Yeah, okay. I'll boot that up. I will boot it up. I'll make it so. Like that sewing machine that wasn't working, and I said, "Make it so." Gotta put my headphones back in. Oh shit! I've got to also turn on my. I'm gonna turn on the sound. Okay. Oh well, it might work. I don't know. Maybe it'll work. Oh, here we go. Ben. Hey, it's Pineapple Boy.
Hi,
how you doing?
Pineapple Boy. Hello.
Hello.
Works a lot better than last time we tried. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, that seems to work.
Yes, works a lot better than last time we tried. How are you?
I'm all right. Getting over me second vaccination.
I missed the first hour, unfortunately.
Oh, well, it was just me shouting over Boris Johnson, so you couldn't understand what Boris Johnson was saying.
It's kind of repetitive.
Yes.
I mean, Boris Johnson, not you. I mean, but yes, repetitive.
Yeah. Nat 100 says Lot's wife was sent to a pillar of salt. That's right. So his daughters had to have sex with him. Anyway, go on. What were you saying?
Lots of things that resonated. I remember when I was a kid, a teenager, and then even younger, I had maps of the world scattered all over my walls in my room, because I like that sort of thing. And one funny story is I was actually 17 before I discovered where Scotland is.
Wow.
Coming from Germany. And that's because it just wasn't marked on the map. I had a political map, you see. Yeah.
Well, that's my excuse for places like Comoros and stuff. It's like, how was I supposed to know that Comoros existed?
Yeah. Well, that's the most embarrassing, I think. It took me a while to understand how the UK works actually as well.
Yeah.
But I always like geography, and well, traveling places not so much. My mom was not as much as you. My mom was a travel agent when I grew up. She's retired now, and I mean, travel agent pay is not so great. Has gone down since then as well. But back then you had perks. Perks included travel, and so advantage for that when I was a kid. and seen a bit of the world, but nowhere near as you have.
Well,
But
one of
still,
my
I-
formative experiences as a kid was camping around
You mentioned
Europe.
Andorra?
And well, Andorra, yeah. But also going to Berlin in 1990, in the summer of 1990, and chipping away at the Berlin Wall. That was huge for me.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I mean, Europe to me, my geography of Europe was pretty okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay. But my geography of the rest of the world was shite. It was absolutely shite. And I think most people in the UK are a bit like that. You know, if you went out with a blank map of the world and said to people on the street, "Where's India?" Point to India on this map, I think that you would get a surprising number of people who would not know where it is.
Yeah, and you get this sort of prank video in the US as well. Someone's got a map of the gist and that and the other. I can't believe how dumb. Because seriously, is that even possible?
What, a map of what? Sorry, you were breaking up there a little bit.
Showing them the world and then telling them, "Show me where straight," and it's just impossible that people are this dumb.
Well, no, they're not dumb. They're just uneducated. They're not educated in where things are and why it matters. But also, I think there's a degree in this of embarrassment. There's a degree of embarrassment, I think, because I reckon that back in the day when there was the empire and we had these maps with these pink areas that were where the British dominated, a lot of kids knew those countries because it was a source of pride. And now, it's not. It's a case of a lot of those countries are now still reeling from the effects of colonization, still dealing with the legacy of what the British and the Germans and the French and the Portuguese and the Spanish and the Dutch and the Belgians did in these places. And I think that there's a degree of embarrassment, I guess, and that's why we're the less likely to teach it in school. I don't know.
Yeah. I had lessons about colonialism in school, but that was Germany, and my perception of education in this country when it comes to history goes from Henry VIII to Hitler alphabetically and leaves out everything else. And I just want something better for my kid, and I'm trying to convey my love of geography as much as I can. We're into flags and countries and all of that.
Yeah.
But I don't expect from education system in this country, including private schools, from that matter. But I just had the impression that it would be slightly better.
With Catherine's youngest, we play like a flag game on my phone where she's got to identify the different flags around the world, and she's bloody good at it. She's 6 years old, and she can just go boom, South Africa, boom, Vanuatu, boom, Canada, boom.
Mine as well.
And if she doesn't know it, she'll take a guess because it's got 4 options. She'll take a guess, and 9 times out of 10, she'll get the right one. Which is really, so proud. Completely useless.
Up for that.
Obviously.
I've got a quiz up for that, yes, but it's just fun. Flags are fun.
Yeah.
Also, also the source of lots of jingoism, but flags are fun.
But as long as you don't shag them. Just don't shag them. It's fine, it's like having a pet. It's nice to have a pet.
Yeah,
but just don't shag them.
I wrote a poem about flag shagging. Discord. I need to share that with you someday.
Oh, maybe after the show today. Listen, I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to wrap up in 5 minutes because it's coming up to 1:30, and we're going to head over to Discord. Do you want to come over?
Thanks for letting me on.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
I've got work, unfortunately.
Oh, you got work. Work. God damn it. That annoying thing. All right, well, listen.
Exactly.
Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you soon, okay? You take care.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, bye. And that was Pineapple Boy calling in to just talk a little bit about geography there. And I love geography. There was a comment that I just wanted to address on here. It was coming from... I think I've lost it. I've lost the comment. It was about maps, and it was about having a map that still had Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia on it. I can't find it now. Why is this? Oh yes, Carl Birchall. Still remember it with Yugoslavia and Czechoslovakia. Well, one thing I like to do, and I know this is incredibly geeky, is to get a map and when you look at it, work out when the map was printed, because pretty much every year up until like 2011, things changed on the map. It would be maybe the creation of a new country. So anything pre-1992 would have the USSR, whereas post-1992 you'd have all the different 15 countries that now comprise the former USSR countries and the Commonwealth of Independent States. And then you've got places that didn't get to be a country until fairly recently, the most recent ones being South Sudan, obviously Montenegro, South Sudan in 2011, Montenegro I think in 2007 and then East Timor in maybe 2002. So yeah, you can sort of work out, is East Timor on the map? Okay, well that must be, you know, X date. And that's quite fun. That's quite fun. Also, the places' names have changed. So Bombay became Mumbai, Madras became Chennai, and Calcutta became Kolkata. So if you see the different names on the map, you go, okay, well that was printed after the 90s or whenever. Which is fun. And also some countries just changed their names. So Kampuchea became Cambodia, and Dahomey became Benin. And so if you know, and Upper Volta became Burkina Faso, as everyone who watched Who's the World last week should know. Yeah, if you know the date that happened, so that happened in Burkina Faso in 1984. So anything that has Upper Volta in it, it's older than 1984 on the map. East Timor is referred to as Timor-Leste now. It is, Carl. So are we going to go with Timor-Leste for Who's the World? Because we're doing Côte d'Ivoire, not Ivory Coast. So we want to keep it alphabetical, strictly alphabetical. Timor-Leste? Yeah? Okay. Well, it does sound a bit like molest, like a molester, like a Spanish molester is called a moleste. Well, I suppose it'd be Portuguese, actually, because it's a Portuguese ex-colony. A lot of Australian men have difficulty finding a Mapatazzi. A Mapatazzi is a because Tasmania is shaped a little bit like a sort of a triangle, like that, and so when you draw it on a map, it looks like a triangle. So if you say to a lady, would you mind showing me your Mapatazzi? You can imagine what they're getting at there. Yeah, slap in the face. Slap in the face, mate. You fucking deserve that. Also, interestingly, Melbourne is a word for a softcock. This is according to Roger's Profanosaurus. I never came across this in Australia itself. No one ever used this for a Melbourne being a softcock, Ballarat being a stiffy, and Lake Wendouree being ejaculation. As in, Sheila, I'm at Lake Wendouree! Yeah. It was only in the Profanosaurus. I think some I don't know, squaddies made it up, who had never been to Australia, but just imagined it. But the reason being is that Melbourne's here and Ballarat is here. So if you look at the angle, it wouldn't be allowed on the BBC if it was a member of Parliament. I had a great history teacher. He would teach the syllabus, but compare what we had to learn with other things. His class did better than the classes where the teacher kept strictly to the syllabus. Bernard, I had exactly the same sort of teacher. Probably not the same teacher, but the same sort of teacher. Johnny Caulfield, he was brilliant. And he took me for politics as well. And he talked a lot. He talked about more than he needed to. And so when we were covering the Vietnam War, when we were covering... Louis XIV, Peter the Great, some of the things that he told us about them still sticks in my head. Now, Catherine the Great, Jesus Christ. But yeah, absolutely phenomenal teacher, and could get people interested in what he was talking about. He was a fascinating person to listen to, rather than some teachers who were just literally reading the fucking lesson plan. We had one teacher, right? He'll say, open your textbooks, right? Open your textbooks at page 17. So you'll open your textbooks. And he would read from the fucking textbook. That's what he thought a lesson was. So we'll sit there with our finger under, and Ronnie Lamb would just start pissing himself laughing at this. So he would say the word that the teacher's about to say just a second before he said it. We'd get really, really irritated, and then people would start doing that around the class, and we'll be muttering under our breath, doing it like this. True story. Pineapple Boy, woo! £5 super chat. A man who loved Queen and Country was caught doing something obscene. His manhood It's true wrapped red, white and blue. His flag will never get clean. Thank you very much for that little poem. I think that's a limerick, isn't it? From Pineapple Boy. And thank you very much for the £5 super chat as well. So, like I said, we're going to head over to the Discord server in a few moments. So if you do want to get a super chat in and keep this channel going, because I'm running on empty at the moment. But if you want to keep this channel going, please chuck in some money. Or become one of my patrons, or join this YouTube channel as a member. You can press join below me here somewhere, and you can join for like £4 a month, same price as a couple of cups of coffee, and that helps keep me on air. I'm walking on air, walking on sunshine, because of all the amazing people who support what I do, or what I attempt to do. One of the two. So if you do want to support me on Patreon, it is https secure patreon.com/thatgingerscouser. So I'll put that into the chat, and I will just quickly get you the Discord server. Please come over to Discord, because I've got something to discuss on Discord, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, I think. That's because you're in Germany, people can opt their property or homes out of Google Maps. Sad but understandable. You can also tell where it was printed. German maps showed Kaliningrad as under Soviet administration in the mid-80s. That's interesting, because Kaliningrad used to be... Oh, shit. It wasn't Gdansk, was it? It wasn't... Was it? Was Gdansk like a whole region? No, it wasn't. No, I'm talking bollocks. Oh, God. What was Kaliningrad before it was taken over by the Russians? Because it was German. It was a German... Oh, that's going to annoy me now. Koenigsberg. Thank you. Koenigsberg. Kingsbergen. Yeah, East Prussia. Everyone's saying Koenigsberg now. Yes, that's the one. Thank you very much. It's near Gdansk. Yes. Wow, everybody knows that. You're all geography geniuses. I want you all on my quiz team. Right, so let's just go to... Oh, I nearly invited you to Ginger Island there. Something else as well, I should say. Tonight, we are not having a Road to Rejoin meeting, because get this, one of the people who are talking on the meeting doesn't want it to be called Road to Rejoin. So it's not the Road to Rejoin meeting, it's the meeting of people who just happen to be watching something, I guess. TM. Yeah, if you want to come to that, it's our usual weekly meeting that we have. Tonight it's going to be about Erasmus Plus, and we have an MP. I think we have an MP talking. So I'll let you know about that if you have signed up on the Rejoin EU website, which is rejoineu.uk. If you've signed up on that, great. And I'll send the link out later today. It's a ticketed event, but the tickets are free. And if you want to give a donation to Grassroots for Europe, you are very welcome to do so. There was a young man from North Wasson who got his cock out to wash him. His mother said, Jack, if you don't put back... Oh, his balls out to wash him. His mother said, Jack, if you don't put him back, I'll stand on the bleeders and squash him. That's good. I like it. Draconic, £2 super chat. Game over. Thank you very much. Thank you. Koenigsberg is where Immanuel Kant lived. He was a Kant, wasn't he? He was a proper Kant. He was an absolute Immanuel Kant. I know it's a legacy of the Stasi. The Germans today I understand to be privacy conscious. I also wish there was more coverage of the Western Balkan countries. Yeah, the Google Street Map is fucking useless in Germany. But yes, it probably is a legacy of the Stasi. It doesn't surprise me. Right. Krakow was my granddad's home before World War II. Shit. David Juado says hello. David, hello. We're leaving. We're going to Discord. Abandoned ship. So so if you want to join us tonight at the Road to discuss things, it starts at 7:30, and you'll be able to field some questions. Do you want to know more about it? Actually, come on. I'm being a bit shit about this. I should be a better salesman. It's like, if I'm organising it, then it's all like, oh my God, you got to go. It's going to be amazing. There's going to be fireworks and balloons and jelly and custard and everything you love. Whereas if someone else organises it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a thing tonight. Yeah, you should come to this thing. But no, I will do my best. I'll do my best to sell this to you. Okay, I'm not seeing the bloody... Oh, there it is. We've got AC Grayling. Oh, no, that's next week. Okay, so... Okay, so Lloyd Russell Moyle, Jackie Jones, David Gow, and Colin McGrath, and Andrew Hadley are going to be talking about Erasmus Plus. This is organised in conjunction with the Centre for International Learning and Leadership and the Actors of Dionysus. The event is an offshoot of the Erasmus Plus campaign launched at our recent webinar. It takes place Wednesday, the 14th of July, which is today. So if you want to join that about Erasmus Plus and learn something about Erasmus Plus, then please do. So in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. If you want to become a patron, I'd love you to. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my patrons. Thanks to all my YouTube members. Thanks for all the people who put stuff into the chat. Thanks to Pineapple Boy for giving me a call. I will see you on Discord. Head over to honestly, just go over to Discord. We've got something to talk about. Okay? I'll see you there. Until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.